Coming up on this week's cooking edition of The Center of It All. We are going to show you a few recipes from Mel to make a full course meal that is stress-free and delicious. From appetizers to dessert, Mel is telling you everything you need to know. Head into the kitchen, grab your cooking utensils. The Center of It All starts right now. Good morning, welcome to the Center of It All. Now, if you are cooking for just your family or cooking for a massive amount of people for a party, the best way to keep them happy until the main course is served is with appetizers. This week, Mel is making one of my personal favorites, spicy crab dip.
If you're like me, you're always in the market for a super good, easy to make appetizer to serve at your own get-together or take to someone else's. Join me for a few minutes this morning right here at my kitchen counter while I mix up a batch of my ultra creamy hot crab dip. Most of us here in the Northeast grew up eating Chesapeake Bay style hot crab dip. It's made with Frank's Red Hot, Old Bay seasoning, and dry mustard. It's fantastic, and I thought it was the ultimate crab dip until I visited New Orleans back in the 1980s. They make theirs with Louisiana Gold Tabasco pepper sauce, Creole seasoning, and Creole mustard. Make them both, compare them, and see if you don't come to the same conclusion I did. I've got 12 ounces of cream cheese, and I've put it in a pretty big bowl, but the only thing you have to really do is take this out almost 2 to 3 hours before you're ready to make your dip, because it has to be really, really soft. I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise, your favorite brand. I'm using some Hellmann's here. That's my favorite brand. Oh, there's a little more left in there. I'm going to stir together a teaspoon of the Creole mustard, 2 teaspoons of the Louisiana Gold hot sauce, and 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. That's smelling real good. Now I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of the Creole seasoning and a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. And I'm going to give these just a little bit of a stir. Incorporate the spices and the mayonnaise. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's looking pretty good right now. I'm using Parmesan cheese. If you wanted to use cheddar cheese, you could, but it needs to be finely grated. Stir that in real well. And now for my veggies, there's a 1/4 cup of yellow onion, green bell pepper, and red bell pepper. 1/4 cup each. Fold these in. Now this is where you want to really take the time to incorporate everything real well. Mash down those pockets of cream cheese. They should be really small. You're not going to get rid of them all, but they should be real small.
When we come back, Mel finishes up the appetizer and dips into the main course. Welcome back. Here are the final steps you need to know to finish up your spicy crab dip appetizer.
That's looking pretty good. Oh, there's one more. And last but not least, our crab meat. Now, I don't live in the Chesapeake Bay or even down in New Orleans, and here in Happy Valley, I'm using pasteurized crab meat. It's really high quality, and this is blue crab meat, which should make it really sweet. And that's a pound. It's not frozen. I don't like frozen crab. And I'm going to fold this, but I don't want to break up the pieces of the crab meat. So I'm going to go really light to the touch with this and just fold it in. Nice and easy, breaking up the little, getting crab meat in between all the mayonnaise and cream cheese mixture. That's looking good. I'm not going to go too much further. I don't want to overmix this. That's a mistake. Okay. Looking great. I've got a 9-inch au gratin dish. It's just a white baking dish with 2 sides. If you don't have this, a 9-inch pie plate or pie dish will do just fine. I'll move this to the side. And we're going to put all of our crab mixture into the dish. I've sprayed the dish with some no stick spray. It smells wonderful. You could almost eat this cold, because pasteurized crab meat is safe to eat just as it is. Oh my guests are going to be happy with this tonight. A little bit more. That's it. I'm going to pop this into a 325-degree oven, and I'm going to let it cook till it's just bubbly and slightly, ever so slightly golden on the top, which is about 25 to 30 minutes. For the unfortunate few who can't eat seafood, served hot out of the oven or at room temperature, this recipe has earned me more accolades than I can count. I've made it for brunches and lunches, casual tailgates, and upscale cocktail parties. I've given the recipe to old friends, new friends, my entire family, and now all of you at WHVL-TV too. For this and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
Now that your appetizer is complete, we can focus onto the main course. This week, Mel is cooking up something that is perfect for your busy schedule during any time of the year.
My kids are grown and have been out of the house for almost 20 years. While I miss them, I don't miss back-to-school shopping at the mall, packing lunches early in the morning, chauffeuring to and from after-school activities, and between all that, cooking kid-friendly sit-around-the-table-and-chat dinners before homework, TV time, and bed. Join me right here at the stovetop today while I show you how to make one of my family's favorite back-to-school dinners. My mother-in-law, who hailed from Philadelphia, didn't love to cook, but what she did cook was very good. She first served me this stewy soup back in 1972, and she called it pepper pot. It didn't look like much, but it was over the top delicious. It was one of her son's favorite meals, and guess what? 15-20 years later, it was one of her grandson's favorite meals, and now, almost 40 years later, it's one of her great-grandson's favorite meals. I guess we could call this a family tradition. I'm starting with 2.5 pounds of ground meat, and I'm putting it in the bottom of this 8-quart stock pot. Over medium-high heat, I'm just going to break this up a little bit. And as the story goes, Philadelphia pepper pot, in fact, is not made with ground beef. It's made with beef tripe, which is beef stomach. And while that might be a delicacy, and I've tasted it, it's very good, kids don't really like to eat beef stomach. So my mother-in-law explained that when her mom made it, she used to make 2 smaller pots and make one with hamburger for the kids and one with beef tripe for the adults. So we're just going to break up our meat. I'm using 90-10, which is only 10% fat. You really want to stick to that because while you do want some beef juices in this soup, you don't want a lot of fat. So I've got my 2.5 pounds of ground meat, about 1.5 cups of celery, the same with onion, about 1.5 cups of chopped onion, and about 1.5 cups of diced carrots. You don't want to season this. Now is not the time to season it. We're just going to cook this for about 10 minutes, stirring it frequently until the meat is just cooked through. It's not pink anymore, but it's not brown.
We're going to take a short break and finish our beef pepper pot right after this.
It's sizzling. There's juices in the bottom of the pan, which is perfect. That's a lot of beef flavor. The meat isn't browned. The vegetables are soft. Hope the camera can get a good shot of that. Nothing's browned, it's all cooked through. And now we're going to add our stock, and of course it's beef stock. Now I'm using homemade beef stock from my freezer, but if you want to use store-bought stock, it's just fine, but you're going to have to amp up the flavor a little bit. And I put a teaspoon of thyme, 2 bay leaves, teaspoon of pepper. It's not called pepper pot for nothing. You have to add pepper to it. And we're going to add all 2 quarts of this stock to the pot. You can see all the pepper in the bottom of that. And I'm just going to allow this to return to a simmer, and while I'm waiting, I'm just going to toddle off camera and peel and dice 3 or 4 potatoes. I've peeled and diced about 3 cups of potatoes, 5 potatoes maybe. I'm just going to add them to the simmering liquid. The soup really does have to be simmering when you add the potatoes. These are gold potatoes, but you can use red potatoes as well. They'll work just fine. And I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of parsley. We'll give this a good stir. And when this comes back up to a simmer, we're going to add our noodles. My soup is at a rapid boil, and it's time to add some noodles now. Now, back in the 1950s and 60s, Campbell's marketed a version of pepper pot, and in theirs they added a macaroni product. But in true pepper pot style, which is Philadelphia, because of the Pennsylvania Dutch influence, it's common practice to add egg noodles, and I've got a 12-ounce bag here. And I don't even have to cook them separately. I'm going to cook them right in this soup for about 8 or 9 minutes. I'll taste occasionally till they're just perfectly cooked through, and then we're going to eat. My noodles have been simmering away in my pepper pot for about 10 minutes, and they're really nice and tender, and oh, look at that. It really is good. I wish you could all taste it. So I'm just going to turn the heat off. We'll take this over to the counter and call everybody to eat. Take it from a well-seasoned mom with lots of back-to-school, after-school experience. You only get to raise your kids once. And cooking even the simplest of meals and sitting around the table for 5 minutes, no matter how hectic your schedule or how tired you may be, is perhaps one of the most important lifelong learning experiences you will ever teach your children. For these and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
When we come back, we finish up our meal with something sweet. Welcome back to the center of it all. My favorite part of any meal is obviously dessert. This week, Mel is making something that can be used as either a sweet treat or breakfast on the go.
Good morning. I'm up earlier than usual on this fine Sunday. I've got family coming over for brunch a little later. After they get here, I'm going to pop a couple casseroles in my oven. But when they arrive, there's going to be some freshly baked banana nut chocolate chip muffins waiting right here on this counter to greet them. I've measured almost all of my ingredients last night before I went to bed, which makes baking almost any kind of muffins really easy to do first thing in the morning. About the only thing I couldn't do last night was process my bananas. For the obvious reason, they're just going to discolor. So what I've done is I've taken a moment this morning and I've sliced 6 medium-sized bananas. You can risk 5, but it just might not be quite enough. Bananas are not all created equal in size. And I'm going to kind of smash these for a minute or two. Just use your rubber spatula to push them through the beaters. Goes without saying, when you're baking banana muffins, banana bread, banana anything, you want ripe to very ripe bananas. Those are just perfect. They're not quite a puree. There's still some little bits and pieces of fruit in it. It's exactly the way you want them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure 2 to 2 1/4 cups of bananas here into this measuring cup. That's all that we can put into the muffins. That's 2 cups, and that's going to be about 2 1/4. It's time to mix our muffins together, and muffin recipes are all kind of the same. You blend your wet ingredients together first, and then you fold in your dry ingredients. So we're starting with 2 sticks of butter, 2 large eggs, and 1.5 cups of sugar. The butter's at room temperature. It's been out for about an hour to make it really, really soft, so this is going to blend together in a hurry. And I'm back to my mixer right now. And another trick to making muffins is once you cream together these wet ingredients, cream these ingredients together and add the liquids, you really don't want to overmix your muffins. You want to just mix them till the dry ingredients are just barely stirred into the mixture. Now I've got 1/2 cup of milk and a tablespoon of vanilla extract, which I'm going to add next. I'm going to blend that in. That looks just about right. I'm going to lower my mixer speed again. And I'm going to add my mashed, smashed banana puree, whatever your name for it is. Blend that in. I'm going to start folding in my flour. Now in this flour there's salt, there's baking powder, and there's baking soda, which means it's going to rise twice. That's the baking powder once when it starts to hit the liquid and once when it hits the oven, which is why they call it double acting baking powder. I have to keep telling myself to keep this out of the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing here. I'm not using my spatula quite yet. I'll get to that as soon as I get all my flour in here. We'll go here. Now I'll start scraping down the sides of my bowl. And this is starting to get thick enough that I'm just about done with my mixer. I'm going to stop, put it down, make a little noise here. And now I'm going to start folding by hand to get all the flour from the bottom and the sides. And I'm going to add the good stuff. I've got 2 cups of chopped walnuts. Pecans will be fine if you like them better. And I've got 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. And now we fold these in really, really good. Smells wonderful. Who doesn't want to wake up on a Sunday morning and come downstairs to these? And all of my mixing is done. That's as quick as it gets put together. I'm going to wash my hands, clean up a little bit of this mess, and we're going to fill our muffin pans. Without delay, I'm going to start scooping my batter into the muffin pans. And I'm just going to start putting scoops of batter into the cups of all of these muffin tins. Now I'm just going to pop all of these pans, all 4 of them together on the center rack of my oven, which has been preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm going to bake them for 20 to 22 minutes until a cake tester or a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. When it comes to a well-made muffin, I'm not mildly crazy about them. I'm certifiably crazy about them. And when it comes to these muffins, everybody goes bananas. Oh my God. Okay, camera crew, let's go.
That wraps up this special edition of The Center of It All. Thanks so much for joining me. Happy cooking, and I'll see you next time.